Hey guys, this is Michael Newman with AFME TV. We are here at Nob Hill Studios and you are watching On Cue. Greetings everyone, welcome back to AFME TV's On Cue. I'm your host Michael Newman. We are here at Nob Hill Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And today on the show we have a very special guest, Mr. Jeremy Frindel, a filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, and it's passing through town. So thank you for being with us, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So his most recent film, One Track Heart, which features Krishna Das, the story of Krishna Das, really critically acclaimed film. First of all, thank you for showing it and sharing that with the world. It's such an awesome story about him and his whole journey from in the 70s to being, you know, such a world-renowned singer in Kirtan music specifically, which we'll talk more about later. But I want to know about you and the history of how you got into the business, how you got into documentary filmmaking. Was it an organic path for you? Was it something that you kind of just dropped yourself into and became what you are today?
I don't really know how I ended up doing this. I was a musician for a long time, and I went to music school and moved to New York to score films. And I was working in a jingle house, music for commercials, and scoring lots of pretty bad independent films. And I said, you know, I can make my own bad independent films. So I just decided, like, it was a pretty sharp turn. I just knew I want to make films.
Wow. That's interesting because some people have, like, you know, you go to film school, you do this whole track of what you know you want to be, but for you, it was just like a side project, would you say?
No, it was like a real decision. I knew I want to make movies, and it kind of hit me really fast and quick, and it was a little scary because I'd been just playing music my whole life, and that was what I knew and kind of how I saw the world. And kind of literally it felt like overnight, it was like, oh my God, am I going crazy? Is this like some sort of early 20 life crisis? Or is this really what I want to do? And I just knew that I wanted to make films. So I quit my job at the jingle house. I worked a full day. I quit, and I'd gotten a job that day to start being a boom operator on a film that night, where we shot throughout the night in a funeral home that night.
That's a good way to start.
And I was just hooked right away. So I took a lot of the sort of knowledge and skills I had from music and worked on a lot of the audio end of films at first. So I was a boom operator, I recorded sound. Then I started doing sound effects and post-production, and I just
became
sort of
a documentary film. Because I want to mention that because, you know, getting in feature films, that's one thing, but documentary films, you have to be committed. There has to be, you know, a lot of tenacity to really get into that. So it's interesting thinking about documentary filmmaking from an outside perspective, because when you watch a movie, you're like, oh, it looks great, but you know, was it hard transition to get into like documentary filmmaking specifically? You
know, when I was, a lot of the work, I don't consider myself specifically a documentary filmmaker. I've got other, you know, sort of fictional things I'm interested in telling. Right now I'm kind of doing several documentaries, so that's where I'm pretty grounded right now, but I've got sort of other plans down the line. But a lot of the films I worked on early on were not documentaries. Wow. And really, I don't think I knew what I was getting into with One Track Heart. Yeah. I'd never made a feature film before.
Wow. This is your first feature film?
That's my first feature film. I've worked on, you know, like I said, I've worked on a lot of films, but this was the first one that I directed. And I basically did it all myself. I shot everything, I edited everything. We had a tiny budget, and I just did it. I felt there was just like something moving through me. It was just like, I have to do this, I can't stop.
The conviction was there.
But yeah, it's kind of insane. And I think if I had known, I don't know what I would have done if I had known, like, oh, this is going to take 3 years and totally consume your life and you won't make any money and all of those things.
I imagine.
But it was incredibly rewarding and a totally life-changing experience. And I've signed up to do 2 more. So I mean, I must have liked it at some point.
You're in it for the long haul. So let's talk about that. You know, with documentary filmmaking, like you said, it's long hours. How do you stay balanced? Because you can't get too attached to maybe a topic or how you think something's going to turn out. So, you know, how do you stay grounded in taking the objective route when making these kind of films?
It's a constant process of stepping back and diving in. You know, I think everybody's got a different sort of process with it. For me, there's something about just a mystery of the project and what it's going to be and what it could be and all of the different stories that you can tell. And it's, for me to want to spend that kind of time on a project, it's got to be something that feels like it's doing something inside of me personally and on my path as a human being. So the Krishna Das film was like a real sort of pilgrimage for me, personally making it, going to India and meeting all of these incredible people who've spent most of their life trying to figure out how to be good human beings. Yeah. It was a pretty special process for me. Wow. And the film I'm working on right now that's brought me to Albuquerque is another sort of similar thing, a documentary about a man who's done pretty amazing things with his life. So I think just being plugged into people like this, it kind of recharges itself in a way.
Yeah, it's like self-gratifying and you want to do it more and more. I want to talk more about, maybe the process with this film and also what you're working on next, but we're going to go to a commercial break. But when we come back, more from Jeremy Frindel.
I think of him as someone who can convey emotion and belief and spirit with his voice, and that makes it very powerful.
In the 70s, it was inconceivable that someone like Krishna Das would become world famous for singing Kirtan. It's just absurd.
Most singers are singing to the audience. He wants to sing only to Maharaj. And the audience listens in to this tremendous love affair.
I wanted to be a singer, I wanted to be a rock and roller, I wanted to travel, and now that all that's happened. But it's just, I don't even know how it happened.
He changed from being a hippie that was interested in music and spiritual things to a spiritual person.
When I heard that he left the body, that was it. My life was over. And that's the way I lived for a long time.
I think sometimes he felt sort of like a lost child in a way, without Maharaji around.
I'd started messing around with cocaine. And then somebody turned me on to freebase, which is like crack. I realized if I didn't sing, I would never, ever be able to clean out the dark places in my own heart. The only chance I had was to sing with people.
Hi, this is Guru Bachchan Singh Khalsa, and you are watching AFME TV from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Welcome back to On Cue. I'm your host, Michael Newman, and we're speaking with Jeremy Frindel about his movie, One Track Heart. And I want to go straight into maybe the process, how you made One Track Heart, but there's a specific thing about making documentary films, like blending in the background, like camouflaging yourself when you're in these intimate moments, because in the movie, you're kind of get into some of the nitty gritty with Krishna Das. So how do you, as a filmmaker, keep yourself in the background without, it's hard because you have to be there, but also just witnessing it, but not being part of it. So how do you do that?
The first 6 months that I shot with Krishna Das, I didn't use any of it. And there was a real just kind of getting to know you, opening up and getting to where I became sort of part of the fabric of the community, to where they felt comfortable and open, and there wasn't that like outsider presence feeling. I think part of it is I tend to shoot everything myself, so I'm sort of a one-man crew. It's not like, there's 4 guys coming in and all of a sudden in the middle of these people's lives. It's like I'm just there by myself. And with Krishna Das, I became really close with him, so it felt, even when I wasn't shooting, I was likely hanging out.
Like buddies, kind of like hanging out.
It became that, they just sort of trusted me, and it felt comfortable. And
that's great, really. And I want to talk more about the film itself. Now, for people that don't know what Kirtan is, how would you explain that, what Kirtan is? It's so vast.
Yeah, I'd probably tell them to ask someone else.
I'm not the guy.
I mean, at the most simple level, it's kind of a musical meditation. It's a call and response chanting practice. It's a meditation practice from India.
Right. And how does, in your journey with Krishna Das, did that change at all from what you thought Kirtan was to where, you know, seeing him being so enveloped in his singing and his passion? Did that change for you as the filmmaker, as an observer?
Yeah, and it's still changing. You know, it's any kind of a meditation practice like that. It's a vast, mysterious thing, and I don't think you can really put your finger on what it is. Yeah. And I think it's different for everybody, which is one of the things that's, I think, really beautiful about it, that there can be, you know, hundreds of people singing in the room, and it means something sort of different to everybody, but that's okay.
That's interesting. So during that process, was there a highlight or something that like sticks out to you that you think will last with you forever through that process?
Of making the film?
Mm-hmm.
There was many. Going to Jason Becker's house was definitely one of the big highlights. Jason Becker's a man with Lou Gehrig's disease who's had it for 25 years, which, you know, most people die in 3 to 4 years with that disease. And Krishna Das went, when we were on tour, sort of a long story of how it came to happen, but he came and sang at Jason Becker's house, which is part of the film. And to me, that moment is what Krishna Das does, where he plugs people into something bigger
than himself. Yeah,
that it's hard to, you know, intellectually describe, but that's what he does with his chanting, and that's why people come all over the world to sing with him.
Yeah, and watching the film, I mean, you guys have to watch it because it sucks you in so hard. You know, every moment in this journey. You know, you only captured a couple years of his life, but I'm really excited about it, and I'm really excited to announce that we'll be showing at AFME in June this year. So we're really excited about that. And I want to also ask you why you're in Albuquerque, because that's another interesting story too of, you know, what the new projects that you're working on now.
Yeah, I'm actually in the spin-off to Breaking Bad.
No, just kidding, just kidding. We wish.
I'm making a film about a man named Vasant Lad, who's an Ayurvedic doctor, who's one of the main people responsible for bringing Ayurveda, which is an Indian medical system, to the West.
Wow.
So he's got a school here in Albuquerque. So I've been here for the last couple of weeks, chasing him around and filming him.
What's your first impression of, you know, like you're coming from New York, so what's your first impression as you're filming in New Mexico, as a lot of films are coming to New Mexico now?
Yeah, I mean, the landscape is gorgeous here. Once you get through the endless strip malls.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But I like it here. Feels like a very easy pace, and just driving around, I drove to Santa Fe a couple times this weekend. It's just beautiful.
Beautiful. So you're going to come back soon, right?
I will be back soon, yeah.
Good, good. So thank you so much, Jeremy, for being with us today and sharing the story of Krishna Das.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And you guys, thank you so much at home for watching AFME on Cue. I'm your host, Michael Newman, and make sure you go to abqfilmx.com to see this whole interview.